Larry Vickers started a bit of a controversy this past week, and I wanted to discuss it a little bit. And the controversy is that he has banned appendix carry inside the waistband from his classes. And appendix carry has become very popular in the last several years. And there's a number of big-name instructors that have espoused it and are promulgating it. And it's a very controversial carry position for a number of reasons. One, there's a lot of good things about the appendix carry, and I'll talk to you about those in a minute. But the downside is that if you have a discharge while holstering or drawing the pistol, or even when the gun's in the holster, the consequences are very severe, or potentially very severe. So let's look at the positive aspects of appendix carry. One, the gun is very quick to get into action. Because it's in the front of your body, lifting the shirt is pretty easy. The gun's very easy to access. So it provides a very quick draw. Being in front of your body, it's very easy to deal with retention. So it's not back here where somebody can get to it before you even know they're on you. Somebody has to basically approach you from the front to try to make a gun grab. And you can just, ball up around it and prevent a gun grab. Very easy to defend a gun grab in the appendix carry position. It's easy to get to when you're seated. So if you're doing a lot of driving or you're sitting at a desk or whatever and you think that's where you may need to draw your pistol, the appendix carry allows good access there. Downside, though, is that when you're seated, your legs are out in front of you and the muzzle is definitely pointing at your legs for quite a while until you can finally get the muzzle up on target. So and one other thing is that it's very concealable, depending on your body style. There's a natural hollow between your abs and the point of your pelvis that the gun kind of slides into and disappears from view very nicely. Also, being in front of you, you can kind of keep an eye on it and say, okay, am I printing or not? So those are the advantages. But they're offset by the one disadvantage that if the gun goes off when it's in this position, the chances of it being a life-threatening injury are much higher than if the gun is carried in other positions. I just had a friend yesterday almost shoot himself when he was trying to draw his pistol, and the trigger got pulled because of a holster malfunction, and he was not hit by the bullet. The muzzle blast, gave him a little bit of a quarter-size burn on his leg, but the bullet missed him, hit the ground harmlessly, no one was injured. And that was because he was carrying in the 4 o'clock position. If that gun had been in the front of his body, it probably would have entered either his lower abdomen or his leg. It would have been a much more traumatic injury and potentially life-threatening. If the femoral artery had been hit, he wouldn't have made it to the hospital in time. So you need to look at the risks and see if they outweigh the benefits or vice versa. And like I said, appendix has a lot of advantages, and so you need to ask yourself, do those advantages outweigh the potential risk of you shooting yourself? Now you may say, well, Peter, I'm very, very careful and that's never going to happen. It only takes once. It only takes once. And the person that almost shot himself yesterday, he's an instructor. He's incredibly safety conscious. He's very careful about how he handles his firearms. But this one little moment where there was a couple of things that went wrong and he had a discharge, that could happen to anybody. And if you are going to do appendix carry inside the waistband, you just need to be aware that you're doing something really potentially deadly and use the amount of caution necessary to do that. Now, in the context of an instructor saying he's not going to allow that in his classes, that's not one person. That's an instructor who has classes of 10 or 20 people each class, and he's doing that dozens of times a year. So the potential for an incident is much higher for that person than it is for an individual. So it makes perfect sense that he does that. So I'm not going to say don't do appendix carry. I'm going to say that it is really dangerous, and you need to be aware of that and take proper precautions and realize that you're doing something that could potentially kill you if you have just a moment's inattention, something fails, your holster goes bad, that sort of thing. So you're going to need to be careful of your holster, make sure that it's in good working condition, that it hasn't gotten old and floppy, and that there's something on the holster could pull the trigger, and that you're always very careful about your trigger finger positioning. And as long as you're willing to do that, and you're willing to take the risk that yes, maybe you're going to shoot yourself, then go ahead and do the appendix carry. I will do it very rarely, based on certain circumstances, but in general I avoid it because I'd rather not have that happen. And I'm just very comfortable carrying in the 4 o'clock position, and I think it's overall gives me the best balance of risk versus benefit. So once again, appendix has definite advantages, but do they outweigh the risks? That's for you to decide. I'm Peter Burlingame of the Self-Defense Initiative. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and tell your friends about us. And be safe out there.